हरे कृष्ण। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। राधा माधव गोपीजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरावनचारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे। जय राधा मदन मोहन राधे। जय राधा मदन मोहन जय जगन्नाथ वरदेवा जय सुभद्रा। जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय। जय जय प्रभुपाद Prabhupada. Shri Harinam Sankirtanam ki. Hare Krishna. So welcome all of you for today's evening's Gita Sandesh program. So we were in the chapter 2. So before we start our session, we would like to do the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimante Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namashreshtam Manumapi Sachi Putram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasya Grajam Murupurim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Patita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Krishna Danyamajanataksharamapi Swapnepi Vishveshware Tasmin Bhakti Mahaitukim Vidadato Hritkaya Vagbi Sada Shrilan Sadguna Punjakeli Nilayan Premavataranaham Vande Bhagavatani Manulavam Budnani Patyakshitau Ajanulambita Bhujau Kanakavadato Sankirtanaikapitaro Kamalayatakshav Vishwambharo Dvijavarau Yugadharmapalo Vande Jagatpriyakarau Karunavatarau Jayatam Hare He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Neelachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namaha Sashankachakram Sakarita Kundalam Sapita Vastram Sarasiruhekshanam Sahara Vakshastala Shobhi Kaustubham Namami Vishnum Shirasa Chaturbhujam. Hare Krishna. So we have started the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So in the second chapter, we discussed that how it is actually the all the concepts of the Gita summarized in the second chapter. So we saw in the first 10 verses how Arjuna actually accepts Krishna as his guru and starts seeking advice from him. Then Krishna starts speaking. First, Krishna starts telling about the knowledge of the soul, the properties of the soul, and he gives him the reasons, various reasons, because of which Arjuna has to fight the war, from the point of view of the nature of the soul and the properties of the soul. Right? Then again, Krishna gives reasons to Arjuna from the point of view of Swadharma or from point of karma. So we discussed all these verses yesterday from 31 to 38, and we also even then again Krishna starts discussing about Nishkama Karma Yoga, or it's also called as Buddhi Yoga. So where Krishna is telling to Arjuna that he has to be duty minded, he should not be result oriented, he should not be having expectations of results, but he has to do that service without having any expectations, Nishkama, but he has to be active. He has to do his action, okay, which is also called as Buddhi Yoga. So we started off here. So we had completed till 2.48. We'll continue from further today. योगस्थ कुरु कर्माणि संगम त्यक्त्वा धनंजय सिद्ध्य सिद्ध्यो समो भूत्वा समत्वं योग उच्यते. Being situated in this yoga, perform your duties, giving up attachment, being equal in success and failure. O conqueror of wealth, such equal-mindedness is called yoga. So Krishna is basically introducing here how a person has to be equal-minded. He should not be attached to failure or success, but he has to perform his duties. And he has to be situated in yoga. He has to become more internal. He should not be considering about the results. He should act, he should do his duty, but the results are not in his hand. Okay. So Krishna was asking Arjuna to do this, which is called as Nishkama Karma. Now the Lord is speaking about the inferior nature of Kamya Karma. That is, doing the activities or one's duties with a selfish desire, okay, or with attachment for success or power, right? So दूरेण हि अवरम कर्म बुद्धि योगा धनंजय बुद्धौ शरणम अन्विच्छ कृपना फलहेतवा. O conqueror of wealth, actions with desire are far inferior to Nishkama Karma Yoga. Surrender to this Buddhi Yoga or Nishkama Karma Yoga. Those who seek results from their work are wretched and receive bondage. So why it is inferior is because it causes bondage to this material world. Whereas Nishkama Karma Yoga will cause one detachment from bondage. It releases the Jivatma or the person from bondage to this material world. He doesn't have to receive further births in this world. He goes towards liberation, right? He gets liberated from bondage. So that is the difference. So yesterday we saw how I was saying example that Duryodhana is also fighting the war. Arjuna is also fighting the war. What is the difference? Arjuna is fighting as a duty, that is Nishkama Karma Yoga, whereas Duryodhana is performing it for a personal motive, right? So the actions of Duryodhana will cause him more and more bondage in this material world, whereas the actions of Arjuna will make him liberated from this material world, even if he were successful or not successful. The result is not important, but the consciousness with which a person is performing the act is very important. Okay. So because one receives benefits according to one's consciousness, right? So Lord then speaks of great power of the Buddhi Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga. बुद्धि युक्तो जहातिह उभे शुक्रत दुष्कृते तस्माद् योगाय युज्यस्व योग कर्मसु कौशलम. In our college, the tagline used to be Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. It's the same line. He who is engaged in Nishkama Karma Yoga destroys both pious and impious reactions. Therefore, engage in this yoga in all types of action. This performance without attachment is a skill. So this is not possible for everyone. Everyone cannot be able to do this. It's actually a skill. One should be able to do it. So the one has to be very, very advanced to be able to perform this Nishkama Karma Yoga. Because by performing this, once both pious and impious reactions are destroyed. So you might be wondering, what is this? If pious reactions are also destroyed, what is that? Impious means, okay, sinful reactions will be destroyed, that is fine. Pious reactions also are destroyed. Because ultimately, pious or impious, they're all material reactions. And these material reactions will increase our bondage in this material world. Suppose even in this life, if you do a lot of punya, punya, good activities like, lot of charity, or, you build some charitable, orphanages, or, give some money in donation to others, you feed poor people, and you do a lot of social service. Okay, that should be done. It's a very good thing to do. But what happens with that is that you get good reactions. You get good karma, because you're doing something good for others, right? Materially. So then you also get paid back. You also get some material good results. So you might get next life in a better birth. You might be born in a better family, a wealthy family, educated family, or maybe if you're doing a lot of punya karmas, like yagnas and all those things to various demigods, then like Ashwamedha yagnas and all, which were there in the past. If someone does like that, then you will get birth in heavenly planets. So you can go to the heavenly planets. So then what, you have to stay there for a long time, like as some devatas or demigods, and you have to enjoy over there, apsaras or something. You have a good life, you have a better life, but your duration in mental life will increase, and moreover, your attraction and attachment to this matter will more and more increase, right? So pious and impious are both condemned. Then you might be getting confused. Pious is condemned and impious is condemned. What are we supposed to do? Yes, that is something which we will discuss today. So we might be thinking there are only two types of actions. One is you do good things, that is pious. One you do bad things, that is impious. No, there is good, bad, and there is transcendental also. Okay. So what Krishna is actually speaking here in the Bhagavad Gita is not pious activities or impious activities. It is a transcendental activity. So pious and impious are all material. Transcendental is something spiritual. Okay. So what is that? It takes a toll to understand what it is. And here Krishna is calling it as Nishkama Karma Yoga. And if you do this, then your pious and impious reactions will get destroyed. So that means basically your future reactions will be destroyed. So that means your time in material world will be reduced. That means you are going towards liberation. Therefore, engage in this yoga in all types of action. This performance without attachment is a skill in all types. You can do this action in all. You can do this Nishkama Karma Yoga in all types of action. Okay, even as a Kshatriya, a person can do this Nishkama Karma Yoga. Even being a Brahmana, you can perform this Nishkama Karma Yoga. Yeah, even if you are, Vaishya, Shudra, you can perform this Nishkama Karma Yoga. Yes. Yeah. What they will attain by doing this? Let us see. So here he discussed that it will destroy pious and impious reactions. Then what else they will attain? Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmukta padam gachanti anamayam. Being engaged in this Nishkama Karma Yoga, having given up the results of work, the realizer of Atma. So what will happen is a person will be able to realize the Atma. Then what will happen? He'll be freed from bondage of birth and attain the place of no suffering. Padam gachanti. Gachanti. He'll go Namayam, which is where there is no suffering. He will go there. Janma bandha vinirmukta. He'll get mukti from all this janma and bandha. So actually this is a cycle, and which is actually catching us and binding us to this material world. What is that? Birth, old age, disease and death. This cycle of birth, old age, disease and death. So we think that normally many of them, not many, almost everyone in this world, they think that they don't have any clue of what will happen after death, right? But after death, things are not finished. So some people will think that, death is ultimate. So we have this life, so just enjoy whatever you want, just do it. Whether it's good or bad, good things or bad things or sinful or, whatever it is, whatever you feel like, just do it. There is a company which has a tag, just do it, right? So they'll say, just do it. Okay. Then the Shastra say, for every action, there is a reaction. They will say, no, who cares about this reaction? This life is life. That's it. Just enjoy. But no. After you die, you have to bear all the reactions of your actions in this life. So based on these actions in this life and in the previous lives, you will get another birth where you have to suffer birth, old age, disease, and death. Okay, and you might be born in a different kinds of family, maybe a very very poor family, or there might be a lot of problems. So these are all reactions to our birth or our actions. So, so ultimately we have to free ourselves from bondage of this birth and death. So by engaging in this Nishkama Karma Yoga, actually this Nishkama Karma Yoga, where what Krishna is saying over here is actually devotional service, which we will, when Krishna explains it further, we will understand that it is actually Bhakti Yoga, which is devotional service. That is what Krishna is actually indicating. So the realizer of Atma, freed from bondage of birth, attain the place of no suffering. Then what will happen? Then you might question, okay, this person is getting bondage from birth, then he doesn't have to take birth, old age, disease, and death. That cycle, he is going out. Then where is he going? That's a question. So he is going to another place where there is no suffering. Okay. So just like this world, this material world, there's another world which is called a spiritual world. In this material world, what are the properties of material world? Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. Dukhalayam means it is full of dukha. Wherever you go, you see people are suffering. And Ashashvatam, that is temporary. You see, everything is temporary in this world. Everything has an end, right? Everything is temporary. But what is the Vaikunta or the spiritual world? The spiritual world is Sukhalayam. It is opposite. Yeah, there is only Sukha over there. There is no even a drop of Dukha. There is no misery at all. Then it is Shashvatam. It is eternal. Okay, it is not temporary. If you attain it, it is your permanent asset. In this lifetime, you might attain suppose $1 million. But as soon as you leave this body, then you lose everything. So it is temporary. Suppose in this lifetime, you might become a Nobel Prize winner. Okay, double Nobel Prize winner, probably. Right? But suppose you die, again you are born in the next life. You have to start from ABCD again. Right? So, but spiritual path is not like that. Right? When you go to the spiritual world, we don't have to suffer. Yeah. And it is Shashvatam. It is eternal, permanent. So when will my intelligence become directed towards Atma as I perform Nishkama Karma Yoga? So Arjuna is thinking in this way, in this mind. So when will it happen? How long will it take? Yeah, if I do this Nishkama Karma, fine. How long will it take? Yes. Then Krishna is saying, Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vititarashyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. When your intelligence has completely renounced the denseness of ignorance, you will be indifferent to all that has been heard and all that will be heard concerning fruits of actions. So Krishna is saying, when your intelligence becomes renounced, okay, from the denseness of ignorance, right? Ignorance is lack of avidya. It's called as avidya. Avidya means ignorance, not knowing who we are, not knowing who we are, not knowing who is God, and not knowing what is the connection with God, okay, and not knowing how, where are we supposed, where do we actually belong. So basically this ignorance is many kinds. So this denseness of ignorance is actually covering us because we all do not know who we are. We do not know what is the goal of life. We do not know what are we supposed to do. We are just engaging in one action or the other in this life, right? Trying, maybe thinking that this will give me enjoyment, but again getting frustrated. Then again trying out something else, thinking that that will give you enjoyment, that will give you happiness, but we do not know. So this, because there's a denseness of ignorance which is covering us. When our intelligence becomes purified, and it gets renounced from all this denseness, then you will be indifferent. Yeah, you'll be indifferent to all that has been. So then you will be naturally indifferent towards the fruits of action. When this ignorance will go away, as long as this ignorance is covering us, then we'll be having the attachment towards the fruits of action. That is attachment towards sense gratification. So then again Arjuna is hitting some question in his heart. So when my heart is purified by performance of actions while being indifferent to results, I will attain knowledge of Atma. Fine. But when will I have direct realization of that Atma? So there are two stages. One is sadhana stage, another one is siddha stage. Sadhana stage is practicing stage. Siddha stage is perfected stage. So initially we are not perfected. We are practicing people, right? Just like, suppose you try to learn a car, driving a car. So initially you are practicing, right? There'll be someone who will be guiding you from beside, do like this, do like that, and you have to do everything very, very consciously. Then at a point of time, you might become very, very perfect. That you even while driving car, you can talk to someone. You will be able to listen to music. You don't get distracted, and very involuntarily you start doing it. So that is a perfected stage. Similarly, in the path of yoga also, initially there is a stage called as sadhana. Then as you do this sadhana, okay, that is a practice. As you do it, and that has to be done with a lot of conscience. You have to do it very consciously. Then eventually you will become perfect. That is, you'll become a siddha. Right. So here Arjuna is getting a question in his heart. Okay, I will perform my actions and I'll be indifferent to results. Okay, whatever results come, I'll try to be indifferent to them. Then I will slowly try to understand. In that way, I will try to understand about the knowledge of the Atma. Fine. When will I get realization of the Atma? That is what he's asking. He's thinking in his mind. Then Krishna is answering it. Shruti vipratipanna te yada sthasyati nischala samadhav achala buddhis tada yogam avapsasi. When your intelligence fixed on knowing Atma after hearing, devoid of thoughts of attaining or not attaining, becomes fixed in the mind, you will attain realization of that Atma. So basically, here Krishna is saying that the intelligence has to become fixed. How does intelligence become fixed? Intelligence will become fixed by hearing. Here is Krishna is saying, Shruti vipratipannate. So by hearing regularly, the intelligence becomes fixed, right? So that is why it is said that if we have to advance in our spiritual life, we have to regularly hear. We have to regularly hear the Vani, the Vani of the speech or the words, the spiritual words, which are loaded with a lot of deep spiritual knowledge. We have to hear that from the devotees, or we can even hear it from the books. We can read the books, the great spiritual books, like we can read the Bhagavad Gita as it is every day. So by regularly hearing, what happens? The intelligence becomes fixed. Then it becomes devoid of thoughts of attaining or not attaining. Then the mind becomes fixed. At that point of time, you will actually have the realization of the Atma. You will be on a realized platform. You will not be on a practicing platform. In a practicing platform, you have to consciously tell yourself, okay, now there is a failure, or don't get disturbed. Fine. Now there is success. Don't get too much excited. Okay. Now it is difficult time, suffering. Okay. Don't get disturbed so much. So you have to tell yourself. Your intelligence has to tell your mind, right? But in perfected stage, you don't have to tell. You naturally are not affected with it. So you start living what the Shastras are saying. So that is a perfected stage. So that happens by fixing our intelligence by regular hearing. Now Arjuna wants to know the characteristics of the Sthita Prajna mentioned in the previous verse. Okay. So this is a section which starts over here. That is from 55. It's called this is called as Sthita Prajna section. It goes till 72, 2.55 to 2.72. So what is the Sthita Prajna? Sthita Prajna is actually a perfected um, yogi. Okay, a perfected yogi, a person who is performing this yoga and who is perfected. Okay, by regular practicing, as we were discussing, by regular hearing, by regularly consciously practicing what he has heard, becomes perfected. So that person is called as Sthita Prajna. So Krishna is explaining the the properties of Sthita Prajna. So let us see. Yeah, be a Sthita Prajna and fight. Okay, so this Sthita Prajna is not just Krishna is telling to Arjuna that you have to become a Sthita Prajna, but we are all supposed to become Sthita Prajna. Yeah. Yes. Arjuna uvacha Sthitapragnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadhi kim prabhasheta kim masita vrajeta kim. Arjuna said, O Keshava, what is the description of this person situated in samadhi, the sthita prajna? In agitating circumstances, how will he speak? How will he remain suppressing his senses, or how will he engage in senses? Engage his senses. So he's asking four things. In difficult situations, agitating circumstances also. Sitari kim prabhashita kim masita prasida. So he's asking ka bhasha, how does he speak? How does such person behave? He's asking. A perfected being, how does he behave? How does he speak? Uh, how and how does he suppress his senses? How does he engage his senses? Uh, Now Krishna explains the characteristics of Sthita Prajna. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmani evatmana tushta Sthita Prajnas tadochyate. The Lord said, when he completely gives up all desires which arise from the mind alone and is satisfied with the soul alone, by that mind, he is called Sthita Prajna. So in yoga, it actually very much involves, in sadhana, it very much involves controlling the mind, because the mind is the source of all the desires. So yes, I mean, day before yesterday, someone was asking me. So above the soul, there is a covering of the man, buddhi, ahankar, the mind. So the mind is the source of all desires. Okay, so suppose now we have born in this life. So the desires which we get in this life, from childhood only, you see some children, you ask them, what do you want to become? He says, I want to become a cricketer. Huh? Being a very small kid, someone says, I want to become a doctor. I want to be like this. I want to be like that. They get some desires. Or some children, you'll see that they're very, very intelligent right from beginning. From their childhood itself, they start doing complex calculations, or they start singing very, very beautifully. From where did they learn all these things? Yeah. So the answer is that they have acquired these qualities from their previous life. And what is that connection then? From the previous life to this life, the physical body is not the same. They have left that body and got this body. Then what is that which is a common thing? That is the mind. The mind is same. Same mind is carried over to next body to the next body. So the mind is a storehouse of all the desires. So all the material desires which we have, they're actually stored in the mind. So the mind has to be controlled. How the mind is controlled? The mind is controlled with the intelligence, right? So Krishna is saying here, when he completely gives up all desires which arise from the mind alone. So all the desires actually arise from the mind alone. The mind says, maybe that will give me happiness. Maybe this will give me happiness. This is not nice. I'm not liking this. I'm liking that. So these all are the characteristics of the mind. The mind is the one which controls our senses. So if suppose the mind is thinking about gulab jamun, and you want to eat that, so then what naturally you'll see that there are waters in the mouth. right? As soon as suppose you love gulab jamun, then think about it in the mind, you see that your mouth starts watering. Then suppose you get intense desire to have it, then your hands and legs also start acting, either to make it or go to some shop and purchase, so that you can eat and satisfy your senses, right? So where is the origin? The mind. The mind is the origin. So the mind actually picks up desires also by seeing some other people, some other um, some other things of this world, okay, or by imagination, it starts picking up. So the mind has to be very much controlled. So from the mind alone, and is satisfied with the soul alone, then he is called Siddha Prajna. He gives up all desires which are arising. He understands that is arising from the mind, and he gives up those desires which are arising from the mind. Then what? He's satisfied with the soul only. Okay, then he is called as a Siddha Prajna. So then the second question, he has 4 questions. So second question is, what will the Siddha Prajna say when he's put in disturbing circumstances? Okay, so he asked, who is the Siddha Prajna? Siddha Prajnasya ka avasha samadhi. So the next question is, how does he behave in disturbing situations? Krishna explains in next 2 verses. Dukeshu anudvignamana sukeshu vigata spruha vitaraga bhaya krodha sitadhir muniruchyate. The sage whose mind is not grieved by the appearance of suffering, who has given up all desire during opportunities for happiness, who is devoid of attachment, fear and anger, is called a Sthita Prajna. So his mind does not grieve upon appearance of suffering. Yeah, but most of us, it is very difficult for us actually. As soon as there is a small suffering, we get so much disturbed. What about very very trying situations? So then the Sita Prajna, he is not grieved, and he has given up all desires, even during happiness, and he is devoid of attachment, fear and anger. Vita raga bhaya krodha sitadir munirachyate. Okay, he is devoid of attachment. He doesn't have attachment to anything. He is not afraid of anything, and he doesn't get angry. He is called as Sita Prajna. Yes, sarvatra na vishnehas tat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratishtita. He who has no motivated affections at all, who does not rejoice on attaining good fortune or curse on attaining misfortune, is situated in prajna. Okay. So he's saying he who has no motivated affections at all. The motivated affections. So he has affections in general. As a person becomes more and more spiritual, so like by seeing this photo, you might think that he'll become like a mad person. Actually, it's not like that. We just put one picture like this, but it's not like that. We will understand it in further sections. So as a person becomes spiritually advanced, it is not that he doesn't have any affections or he becomes very very immaterial or indifferent to others. It's not like that. He becomes more and more merciful to others. He has more and more affections, pure affections to others, unmotivated affections to others. So that is why Krishna is mentioning over here, he who has no motivated affections. So usually in this material world, you will see that all the affections which people show towards others is actually very very much motivated. Okay, suppose a person is trying to speak very very sweetly to you, like you often get calls from this call centers or something like that, and they speak very sweetly with you. Okay, you might think that, oh my god, he's speaking so sweet, he or she is speaking so sweetly with me. See how much respect they are giving to me, right? How much affection they are showing to me. but actually they are motivated. Yeah, if you show an interest for you know uh, the offer which they are giving, then fine. If you don't show, then they'll cut. That's it. And behind the phone call, they might speak a lot of words against you. Ill words on you, right? Yeah. Similarly, even among friends, even among family members, many times you will see that affection is very, very much motivated. Sometimes it can have, it will be there even among parents and children also. The parents, they grow the children because they expect that the children will take care of them in the future. Okay, so that is also a motivation, right? Yeah, when I grow up, he will take care of me. He will. Uh, so there is some motivation always. Yeah. So, but a person when he becomes spiritual, he doesn't have any motivated affections, and he does not rejoice on attaining good fortune. Sometimes as soon as you get good fortune, people become so much excited, right? Yeah, they'll be jumping and they'll be rejoicing so much, but they don't know that in due course of time it will be taken away. So why here Krishna is saying that you should not rejoice on attaining good fortune? What's wrong? Say, okay, if you're having something wrong, something suffering or something, then you remain neutral to it, fine. But what if you get good things? You get good fortune, you get, suppose, like you get a lot of lakhs of rupees, or you get a lottery of some 1 crore or whatever, right? Good fortune, some good fortune, or you get some visa to go to US or free trip somewhere. Yeah, some good fortune. If you get, why he's saying not to rejoice so much is because that is also very temporary. We don't know when it will end, and immediately there might be there in this world. It's like a wave. You're just taken on the top again. As time progresses, you again have to go towards the bottom. Again, the time will take you to the top. Again, it will take you to the bottom. This is what it happens. Okay, and this can spread across many lifetimes or in this lifetime only, right? So by developing attachment towards good fortune, getting something wonderful, right? When you rejoice, then what happens is you get attached to it, and then it will increase your hankering for it. Okay, so these material desires are actually like fuel. Yeah, and or these material fortunes which we get, they are like the fuel. Okay, and the kinds of desires that we have in our heart, they are like the fire, kama. Material desires are like kama, they're fire. When you add fuel to the fire, what happens? It will only increase, it doesn't put down the fire. So when you actually when you achieve your mental desires, what happens is your desire to achieve more material desires will increase. Okay, you are, so the fire will more and more increase. Initially it was small fire, then it will become big fire and big fire, big fire. So you are hankering for the material desires will become more. I want more, I want more, right? Suppose you are a lakpati, then you want to become crorepati. When you become crorepati, you want to become some arabpati. You want to become number one in this world. So finally, you want to become God, right? So therefore, one should not. This is the nature of you. It might be difficult for us to accept it, but this is the nature of this world, or nature of material results, right? So, so that is why Krishna is saying that he does not rejoice on attaining good fortune. So he is called as Sitaprajna. Yada samharat. So this is what is the connection? Next 6 verses answers the third question. How does he remain suppressing his senses? How does he control his senses? Okay. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani vasarvashaha indriyani indriyardebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. When he easily withdraws all his senses completely from sense objects, like a turtle withdrawing his limbs, he is situated in prajna. He's a sthita prajna. So he acts like a tortoise. So a tortoise, what does it do? When the situations are favorable for it, that means when it enters into the water, then it opens up. It opens up its hands and legs, and it freely swims in the ocean water or the sea, right? But when it comes on the land, and if it sees that someone is going to attack it, then what happens? it actually pulls all its hands and legs inside. Then no one will be able to do anything to it, right? It protects itself. So a sthita prajna is also like that. When situations are good, when situations are favorable for his advancement in spiritually, then he acts freely. Yeah, he uses all his senses and hands, and he acts. But when he sees that there is a danger of getting bonded to this world, then in those things he actually refrains from those things. Yeah, so he basically, it is said anukulasya sankalpa pratikulasya varjanam. Those which are favorable for advancement, we accept that. Those which are not favorable for advancement spiritually, then we reject them, right? So yeah, but we can see that the fool who is sick also restrains his senses. How can this be outstanding quality of the sthita prajna? This is, Arjuna was thinking like this, because sometimes a fool who is sick, he is also not acting. Yeah, he can't act freely because he's sick, right? Then what is the difference between a sick person and a sthita prajna? Then Krishna is answering, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. One who refrains from eating also stops the sense objects from functioning, but the desire for sense objects remains. Having seen the Atma, one can stop the desire as well. Okay, so what is the difference? Yeah, so see, someone might be stopping this, refraining from eating, but internally he will be still having the hankering to eat. Right? So one who refrains from eating also stops the sense objects from functioning. Yeah, he's refraining. Suppose he's fasting, right? He's not uh, eating, right? He's fasting. But what's the difference between sthita prajna and a normal person? A normal person will still have a lot of hankering for that. But a person who's sthita prajna, because he's situated in the knowledge of the soul, yeah, he has seen the Atma, he's a realized person, he doesn't have that hankering. Even if you forcefully give him something, he won't, if it is not favorable. He has that level of control over his senses, right? Sometimes, some people, they say, I'm fasting from this and that, or, I'm doing, some austerities or some tapasya like this. But suppose there is some tempting situation, they'll say that, it's okay, one day we can skip it, fine, right? Because that hankering becomes uncontrollable, right? That addiction becomes uncontrollable. Yeah. So, but Sthita Prajna is not like that, because he has seen the Atma, he can stop the desire also. So next verse speaks the rarity of being such a Sthita Prajna. How rare it is to be a Sthita Prajna. Krishna is saying, Yatato hi api kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prashabham manaha. Even for the wise man who endeavors to control the senses, O son of Kunti, the strong senses take away the mind by force. We hear about a lot of stories, right? A lot of stories, like like Vishwamitra Muni. We hear about the story, and then when he was doing the tapasya, yeah, he was doing tapasya. Menaka comes. Huh? I think first is Menaka and second is Ramba, I think. So they come and then they try to allure him. Then at a point of time, he loses control of himself, right? He knows, I should not break my tapasya, but he breaks tapasya. Suppose, like, a person might be having diabetes, for example, and doctor has told him, you should refrain from sweets. But at a point of time, suppose he loves gulab jamun so much, and someone has put a big bowl of gulab jamun in front of him, then he might not be able to control his senses. Example. So these are all material examples. But in spiritual life also, such things happen. So the mind actually is very powerful. It takes away the senses. Yeah. So that's why it's very, very rare. Even if a person wants to control his senses, it won't be possible for him to control his senses. That's why being a Sthitaprajna is very rare. Even for those who have conquered senses, realization of Atma is not known. What is method of realizing the Atma then? Yeah. So that's a question which Arjuna was getting. Even if you're trying to control the senses, then we are not able to be successful. Then what is the method of realizing the Atma? तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त आसीत मत्परः वसेहि यस्य इन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. The yogi who is devoted to me. So here actually Krishna is mentioning the bhakti yoga, right? So how a person becomes successful in yoga is because of bhakti, right? Yukta asita matpara. The yogi who is devoted to me after restraining all his senses will remain seated, realizing Atma. He whose senses have thus been brought under control is Sthita Prajna. Yes. So, how to bring this senses under control? It's not a mechanical activity. It is not something which is in our capacity. Yeah, because the senses are very, very powerful. They take away the mind. So then Krishna is saying that one has to be yukta asita matpara. One has to be devoted to me. He has to restrain all his senses and engage them in my service. He has to be devoted to me. He has to do devotion to me. Then his senses will become controlled. Yeah, that is why Krishna is called as Govinda. Go means one is cows. Okay, one meaning of the it is cows. One who is taking care of cows is called as Govinda. But another meaning of Govinda is one who gives pleasure to the senses. Okay, one who can satisfy the senses. And then there's another name of Krishna which is called as Rishikesha. Rishi means senses. Kesha means one who is able to control. So Krishna is one who can Krishna can control our senses. He's a controller of the senses. Okay, but how to control the senses? By engaging it in his service. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते. For the person who meditates on the sense objects, attachment arises. From attachment arises desire. From desire arises anger. So how the chakkar, the loop of material life starts is by this. Dhyayato. When one meditates first, as soon as he sees a sense object, I want to enjoy something. It can be in any way. Yeah. Then first he sees. Then as soon as a person sees, he doesn't develop the mental desire. Then what? He meditates on it. Oh, that will be nice. It will be nice. If I get this, it will be nice. If I get that, it will be nice. I'll be happy. I'll enjoy. By meditating. Then what happens? Attachment arises. Sangha then becomes very strong. I want it. It goes to that level that I want it. Then from that attachment arises desire. Desire means it is a very strong desire. I must get it. Like that. And when a person becomes like that, then suppose if that desire is not satisfied, then he gets anger. Yeah. क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहः स्मृति विभ्रमः स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. From anger arises bewilderment. When a person becomes angry, he gets bewildered because he loses control over his mind. He doesn't think. He can't think what is right, what is wrong because he is in anger. From bewilderment comes loss of memory. From loss of memory comes loss of determination. One loses determination. From loss of determination, one sinks into this mental ocean. That is how a person becomes trapped in this mental world. Because he loses all his determination. He loses all his memory. He loses all his intelligence. The next 8 verses, Lord answers the last question. How does Sthita Prajna engage in action of senses? How does he engage? Raga Dvesha Vayuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischaran Atma Vashyer Vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. One whose mind is offered to me, even though he enjoys the sense objects with the senses, freed of attachment and repulsion, under the control of the mind, and as a pure mind. So I was telling you previously when we showed that one picture where a person was very, very like a madman, a very indifferent person. So I was saying that no, that is not right. What Krishna will explain it further. So here is the place. So a person who has offered his mind to the Lord, then even if he enjoys all sense objects, yeah, with his senses, he is freed from attachment and repulsion because he is not attached to the sense objects. Yeah, he is attached to transcendental. What is that? He is attached to the Lord. He is attached to the Paramatma. He is attached to a higher purpose. So because he is attached in a towards the Lord, then even if sense objects are there, they won't affect him. Even if they are not there, they won't affect him. Right? Yeah. So if you see many great devotees in the Mahabharata or in the Bhagavatam, many of them are all great kings actually. If you see the Pandavas, they are after they win the war, you see they are all living in a very luxurious manner. They are living with a lot of opulence. They have a lot of power. They have so many servants on their call. Correct or not? Then but they're all perfected beings because they have the association of the Lord. They're very great devotees. They're actually pure devotees of the Lord, right? So then are they not enjoying so much materially, so many things? Yeah, they are enjoying, but they are not disturbed by them. They are not covered by them, because their attachment is towards the Lord. So if when Krishna had placed them in the forest, they did not retaliate. They did not curse. They did not lament, right? But and when Krishna had placed them on the throne, then they did not rejoice also. They were ready to do anything for the service of the Lord. Okay. They never complained that, Krishna, we were great devotees of you. Why are you giving us so many troubles? They never said like that, right? Because they were attached to the Lord. They're attached to the service of the Lord. In whatever way Krishna wanted to use them, they were ready. Okay. प्रसादे सर्व दुःखानां हानिर अस्योपजायते प्रसन्न चेतसो ह्यासु ह्यासु बुद्धि पर्यवतिष्ठते. From this pure mind arises destruction of all distress. Okay, so when the mind becomes pure, then all distress will be destroyed. A person doesn't get distressed. Yeah? Quickly, the intelligence concentrated on Atma becomes completely fixed. Then what happens to a person with uncontrolled mind? Okay. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya na chayuktasya bhavana na chabhava yatah shantir ashantasya kutah sukham. For the person with uncontrolled mind, there is no intelligence fixed on the soul and no contemplation of Atma. Without contemplation, he has no peace. Without peace, where is bliss? Okay, so basically, he cannot be actually happy. A person, if it's not fixed on the soul, he cannot be happy. We might see many people. You might say that I have seen many people who are happy in this world. Okay, that happiness is very external. That happiness is very superficial. That happiness is very temporary. It is going to go away. They're thinking that they're happy, but it's just only a matter of time that there is a force. There'll be many forces which will try to bring him down into distress, right? So if you see that there are many successful people, and if you read their autobiographies, you will see that most of them were alone. Most of them did not have friends. Most of them had many mental problems, right? Many celebrities, many stars, film stars. They are into like drug addiction. They are into a lot of psychological problems, right? even though they're in the top of material life. Why? You might be thinking, we should think that they should be happy, right? No. Yeah, because the objects cannot satisfy the soul. The soul is spiritual. So what can actually satisfy the soul is something spiritual. So material things cannot satisfy the soul. The newness of the material things will go away. Yeah, suppose you purchase some very wonderful laptop, iPhone or MacBook or whatever, might be looking very, very fantastic, wonderful, but just a matter of time that it starts getting scratches, it starts becoming old, it starts getting stuck up and starts giving you problems, then the happiness goes away. So that is the property of the matter, that it will actually frustrate you, right? So unless one's intelligence is fixed on the soul, one cannot be happy. Indriyanam hi charitan yanmano यन्मनोनु विधीयते तदस्य हरति प्रज्ञाम वायुर्नावम इवाम्बसी. One of the moving senses which the mind follows steals away the intelligence as wind moves a boat on the water. Suppose there's a boat, on the ocean, and if there is no force, it is not trying to go, and if there is no, the rudder, it is not there, then what happens? Whichever direction the wind comes, the boat starts moving in that direction, right? Whichever side it comes, it goes. There is no direction for it. Where it is going, no one knows, right? It becomes like that. So even if one of the senses is not controlled, then just like the wind takes away the boat, the mind also is taken away by that senses. So by fixing mind on Krishna and restricting senses from sense objects, what will happen? तस्माद् यस्य महाबाहो निगृहीतानि सर्वशः इंद्रियाणि इंद्रियार्थेभ्यस्तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. He who completely restricts the senses from the sense objects by fixing the mind on me, O mighty armed one, is fixed in prajna. या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागृति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुने. The Sthita Prajna is awake in the night when all other living entities sleep. The night of the observant Sthita Prajna is the time during which all the living entities are awake. Okay. So basically, for the spiritual persons and the material persons, their habits are different. Okay. So a spiritual person, he tries to get up very early in the morning, and he focuses, on doing some sadhana. And he sleeps on time, and he eats on time. He whatever material necessities are there, he takes it as much as required. But whereas a person who is engrossed in material enjoyment, then there is no time for him. There is no restriction for him, right? So usually we'll see that most of the people, they enjoy in the night, because night is actually tamoguna. Early morning is sattva-guna, and there is also like Brahma Muhurta, which is Shuddha Sattva, transcendental vibrations at that time. So most of the people, they get up at 4 o'clock. Those are serious spiritually, and very successful people also, they get up in the morning, because in that time the vibrations are different. And the day, it's in the mode of passion. Everyone will be active, and the night it's samoguna. So all sinful activities, the tendencies to do sinful activities, they arise in the night. Okay. So a spiritual person like the Sthita Prajna, we see here, he is not active during the tamoguna time, that is the night time. He is active during the sattva-guna and Shuddha Sattva time, right? And those who are opposite, that is a materialist people, they are awake in the night and they're asleep during the mornings. That's what Krishna is saying. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudra apa pravishanti tadvat kama yam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kama kami. Just as the rivers enter the ocean, which has fixed banks and is never quite full. Yeah, it is never quite full. So the objects of the enjoyment enter into the Sthita Prajna, but he remains peaceful. this is not so for the desire of those objects. So how he is a Sita Prajna? Sita Prajna is like that of a ocean. So if you see the ocean, many rivers come and meet the ocean. Okay, in the rivers there is so much of agitation. The water is very, very agitated. It is forcefully coming, it's flowing, and it's coming from mountains on the top, everything. It's coming with a lot of force and hitting the ocean. But as soon as that water enters the ocean, you will see the ocean is very calm. Okay, it just has some waves and it is very pleasant and peaceful, right? So though the objects of enjoyment actually they try to strike the Sita Prajna, he remains like that of the ocean, very still. He remains very peaceful. They cannot agitate him. Vihaya kaman yes sarvan pumams charati nispriha nirmamo nirhamkara sashantim adhigachati. He who, having given up all objects of enjoyment, being devoid of possessiveness and false identity, acts only to maintain his body, attains peace. So how can we be peaceful in this in our life? So Krishna is giving the formula here. He's saying that one who has given up all objects of enjoyment, okay, and he's being devoid of possessiveness. I want to possess this. I want to possess. Possessiveness is not possessiveness. Like I want to possess a house. After you possess a house, I want to possess some properties. Then I want to possess this. I want to possess that. I want to possess this. So this kind of thing is not there, and there is no false identity. Okay, and he acts only to maintain his body. So that such a kind of person will actually attain peace. Yeah. So it is here possessiveness is different from having possessions. So as I was saying previously also, like if you see the Pandavas, they had so many possessions. They had the entire world actually. Dharmaraj was the king of the entire world, right? So they had possessions, but they did not have the possessiveness because they understood that these are all not they don't belong to us. Now I am the master of the world, but eventually I am not the master. Someone else will become the master. Right? Actually, everything belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. Only temporarily we become the masters, but ultimate master is the Lord. So they have that understanding. Therefore, they are peaceful. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Prajna Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati Sthitvasyam Anta Kalepi Brahma Nirvana Vrichyati. O son of Pritha, this is a situation for attaining the Lord. Attaining that state, one is not bewildered. And even at the time of death, he attains Brahman, bestowing a deathless form. So Krishna is saying that one who is Sthita Prajna like this, when he comes to the state of a Sthita Prajna, he is not bewildered even at the time of death, because the time of death is the most bewildering situation for any person, because ultimately we want to protect our life, right? We are attached to this body because we are attached to enjoyment. So at the time of death, it is very, very bewildering, right? Yeah, because we don't want to leave the body. So, but Sthita Prajna, even at that time, he is not bewildered. And what does he attain? He attains Brahman. He attains liberation. Yeah, and bestowing a deathless form, he attains a form which is deathless. Okay. So in this way, Krishna concludes the second chapter. Yeah. Hare Krishna. So he attains the Brahmi Sthiti. So here we discuss who is Sthita Prajna. Yeah, how does he speak? How does he remain still? How does he control his senses? Everything. And finally, what the Sthita Prajna will attain? It is Brahmi Sthiti, a state of liberation. Right? Then this way Krishna concludes second chapter. Om Tat Sat, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions you can ask?
Guruji, Hare Krishna.
Please ask if you have any questions.
Guruji, Hare Krishna. This is Jessica from Hyderabad. Can you hear me? Hello, Guruji.
If anybody has questions, please ask.
Hello, Guruji. Hello, Guruji. Can you hear me? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I'm able to hear you.
Yeah.
Please unmute yourself and speak.
Okay. Guruji, Hare Krishna. Lord
Hare
Krishna, we have understood that we have over here by completing the second chapter. In this, Lord Krishna talks about attaining the stage of a Brahmana, the learnings and teachings of attaining the karma to become a Brahmana. So, in this second chapter, have we overcome pain along with overcoming the grief of death?
Can you come again? I couldn't understand. What is the question?
Have we been able to overcome pain? Pain. Hurt, pain.
Yeah.
These are feelings along with attaining the grief of death.
I mean, actually, in second chapter, Krishna is speaking everything in a concise way, summarized way. He has not explained everything in detail, but everything in detail will be explained in the further chapters. When Arjuna starts questioning about each and everything, what Krishna has said in the second chapter, then he starts elaborating in third, fourth, fifth, and it goes to 18th. Yeah.
But Guruji, my question is, if we have overcome the grief of death, then before that we will overcome the pain and the sadness, right?
Yes, definitely.
So that is in the verse which you explained just a few verses back. That is the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, 68. It says very clearly, in short, Tasmat yasya mahabhaho nigrihitani sarvatsa indriya nindriya thebyas tasya prajna pratishtita. Therefore, O mighty armed one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. That means he has overcome, when we get to 68, we have to understand that we have to overcome the feelings of sadness, grief.
Definitely. No, not this, in the previous verses also. Krishna explained that. He explained, in the 2.68. Yeah.
Right. So from sense objects, intelligence. Yes. Right.
He fixed. And not only that, even in the 2.65 also, all distress, it will be destroyed.
Right.
So basically, a person becomes very, very fixed up in the knowledge of the soul. He gets fixed up in service to the Lord. That even if there is so much of pain, even if there is like a lot of trying situations are there, even in those situations, he'll be able to remain very composed because he understands that ultimately this is the nature of this material world. And because he has that spiritual knowledge and he has that higher purpose that he has to get liberated from this world, so he doesn't get disturbed by all these things.
Okay, thank you, Guruji.
Thank you. Any other devotees have any questions?
Prabhuji, what is bliss?
Bliss is happiness, ananda. So there is distress which we have. Okay. So suppose we don't want any distress, we just want to be peaceful. Correct. So that is Shanti. Right. Many people in this world, they say Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Correct. So they want only Shanti. They want to be ultimately just peaceful. Okay, no anxiety. I should not have any anxiety. I should not have any stress. I should not. It's a very neutral stage. It's like from negative, suffering so much in this world in different situations, difficult situations is like, negative integers, negative numbers, and getting free from them, coming to peace is zero, coming towards zero. Okay, but that is not the ultimate. Going to zero is not ultimate from negative to zero. After zero, you have to go towards 1, 2, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, right? Positive. So there are a lot of positive things to be done. So if you see, Arjuna didn't refrain from the war. He didn't become neutral, right? He was actually very, very active, because the nature of the soul is to be active. The nature of the soul is not inaction. Okay, so because why I'm saying this is because there are some kind of yogis who ultimately believe in inaction. Okay, which is like completely having no action. But that is not what Krishna is speaking. Krishna is saying there is positive action, okay, which is actually satisfying the soul. Yeah. So that is when you do that positive action, then you actually get happiness. So that is called as bliss. Okay, which is actually the property of the soul. So Krishna says it is a Sat Chit Ananda. The nature of the soul is Sat Chit Ananda. The soul is eternal. Sat Chit means it is having knowledge, and it is Ananda. It is by nature happy and it wants happiness. So that happiness is what is called as bliss. Okay, what we are experiencing here is actually not bliss. It is just it is a particular state of the mind only. It's a very temporary fraction of this second, and that is not actually the bliss. It is a temporary, very, very temporary, very, very fractional. It exists only for a short time. Yeah, so that is not actual bliss. Bliss is something which is everlasting. It continuously exists. So that happens when someone becomes very advanced spiritually. Did that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, is only Arjuna confused in the war, or anyone from the side of Pandavas?
Actually, Arjuna becoming confused in the war is not actually on his own. That is also a Leela of the Lord. It is not that Arjuna was getting those thoughts only. Do you think that Arjuna was getting thoughts only on the battlefield? Did he get the thoughts before the battlefield while he was preparing for the battle? And at that time, was Krishna not available? And can't he go to Krishna and ask at that time? No, actually, Arjuna knows everything. Arjuna is a very learned person. Yeah, but Krishna, even in just before the the Bhagavad Gita, because he wants the Bhagavad Gita to be given for the whole world for all time to come. Therefore, he has used Arjuna as an instrument, right? And what Krishna has done, he has put over his Maya on, he has put over his curtain of Maya, he has put his illusion. There is like some we see these fairy tales, Jadoo ki chabi, like there is the stick, and and then the person will becomes hallucinated. He doesn't know what is happening, right? So similarly, Arjuna also becomes covered by the Maya of Krishna. Krishna puts a spell on Arjuna. Then Arjuna gets into illusion. Hey, what is this? I'm fighting my own grandfather. I'm fighting my own brothers, and and all. He starts questioning like an ordinary person. But otherwise, Arjuna was already a self-realized soul and is a associate of the Lord. He is not supposed to get bewildered. There were many tough situations even in the past, but never was Arjuna bewildered. But this is a situation, this event, this circumstances Krishna is utilizing. And he's using that spell on Arjuna so that he can speak out the Bhagavad Gita. Because we are not going to ask such questions. Very rare a person will ask such questions unless he's very, very sincere. Right? But Krishna is utilizing Arjuna so that this Bhagavad Gita can be given to all time to come for all of us. Yeah. So Arjuna is just a puppet in hands of Krishna. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Yeah.
We did 2 dharmas in chapter 2. Am I right? That is, can you please tell me again the 2 dharmas?
Dharmas?
The 2 dharmas of our chapter 2 that we did is?
Yeah. So there is dharma, like in normal English terms, there are 2 kinds of duties. Like we have horizontal duties and like vertical duty. So that's one is like spiritual duty, another one is a material duty. So these are the 2 kinds of duties. Okay. So material duty is because according to your varna and ashrama, according to your guna and karma, what actions you are doing, what nature you have. So you have particular duties. So those duties are horizontal material duties, right? Then there are duties which are based internally, for your jivatma, for the soul, which are called as spiritual duties, which actually nourish your soul, which actually nourish you spiritually, which will help you to advance spiritually. So these both things are there. These are both dharmas.
Guruji, any names, like there is a Sanatan Dharma, there is a Guru Dharma.
There is.
What is this chapter 2 dharmas names? Names of the 2 dharma.
One is like, I guess it is like, I forgot the name. One is Swadharma, another one is Naimitika Dharma, I guess. Yeah.
And it is identity, characteristics of soul reincarnation is what I was wanting to understand.
Yeah, characteristics of the soul. You can read that part, where Krishna is speaking about the soul. There, if you read them, you will understand what is the nature of the soul. And actually, there are so many other verses which will come in the future. How reincarnation actually happens. Yamyam vapi smaran bhavam. At the time of death, whatever one thinks, that kind of body he will get, in the next life. There are things which will be described in the further chapters.
Yeah, I've read about Ajanya, who was a very evil person, and he took the name of Krishna. So Yamdut
Ajamil.
away. Yeah.
Ajamil.
Yes, yeah. Guruji. And Guruji, it would be very wonderful if you can share the names of both the dharmas of chapter 2 in short.
I will find out and I'll let you know tomorrow.
Yes, Guruji. Even if you put it on your WhatsApp group, it would be wonderful. It would be knowledgeable.
Sure. We will put some. Yeah. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Thank you. Hari Bol.
Anyone has some questions, or we can close. One last question we can take up. Anybody would like to ask? Okay, then I think we can close for today. Thank you very much.